On Christmas morning, we stuck up a board with Merry Christmas on it. Two of our men then threw their equipment off and jumped up on the parapet with their hands above their heads. Two of the Germans did the same and commenced to walk up the riverbank, our two men going to meet them. They met and shook hands, and then we all got out to the trench. We mucked in all day with one another. They were Saxons, and some of them could speak English. One of their men mentioned that he'd worked in Brighton for some years, and that he was fed up to the neck with this damned war, and he'd be glad when it was all over. We told him he wasn't the only one that was fed up with it. The German company commander asked Buffalo Bill if he'd accept a couple of barrels of beer, and assured him that they'd not make his men drunk. They'd had plenty of it at the brewery. He accepted the offer with thanks, and a couple of their men rolled the barrels over. The German officer sent one of his men back to the trench, who appeared shortly after, carrying a tray with bottles and glasses on it. Officers of both sides clinked glasses and drank one another's health. They came to an understanding that the unofficial truce would end at midnight. At dusk, we went back to our respective trenches. We had a decent Christmas dinner. Every man had a tin of McConaughey's and a portion of plum pudding. A tin of McConaughey's consisted of meat, potatoes, beans, and other vegetables, and could be eaten cold, but we generally used to fry them up in the tin on a fire. The best firms that supplied them were McConaughey's and Moyer Wilson's. We could always depend on having a tasty dinner when we opened one of their tins. But another firm that supplied them in this time must have made enormous profits out of the British government. Before ever we opened the first tins that were supplied by them, we smelt a rat. The name of the firm made us suspicious. When we opened them, our suspicions were well founded. There was nothing inside but a rotten piece of meat and some boiled rice. The head of that firm should have been put against the wall and shot for the way he shacked us troops. Anyway, the 2 barrels of beer were drunk, and the German officer was right. If it was possible for a man to have drunk the 2 barrels himself, he'd have bursted before he got drunk. French beer was rotten stuff. Just before midnight, we all made it up not to commence firing before they did. At night, there was always plenty of firing by both sides, if there were no working parties or patrols out. But during the whole of Boxing Day, we never fired a shot, and they the same. Each side seemed to be waiting for the other to set the ball a-rolling. We were relieved that evening, at dusk, by a battalion of another brigade. They told us that the French people had heard how we'd spent Christmas Day, and were saying all manner of nasty things about the British Army.
Although I've never heard it actually confirmed, I believe a suggestion was made by the Pope to all belligerent powers that armistice should be arranged for Christmas Day. It was further reported that the Central Powers had signified their assent, but that the Allied governments refused to entertain the proposal. The suggestion was certainly never referred either to Joffre or to me. Whether this statement was true or not, it is certain that soon after daylight on Christmas morning, the Germans took a very bold initiative at several points along our front in trying to establish some form of fraternization. It began by individual unarmed men running from the German trenches across to ours, holding Christmas trees above their heads. These overtures were, in some places, favorably received, and fraternization of a limited kind took place during the day. It appeared that a little feasting went on, and junior officers, non-commissioned officers, and men on either side conversed together in no man's land. When this was reported to me, I issued immediate orders to prevent any recurrence of such conduct, and called the local commanders to strict account, which resulted in a good deal of trouble. I have since often thought deeply over the principle involved in the manifestation of such sentiments between hostile armies in the field. I'm not sure that, had the question of the agreement upon an armistice for the day been submitted to me, I should have dissented from it. I've always attached the utmost importance to the maintenance of that chivalry in war which has almost invariably characterized every campaign of modern times in which this country has been engaged. But the Germans, glaringly and wantonly, set all such sentiments at defiance by their ruthless conduct of the present war, even from its very commencement.